Formula One has touched down in Europe for the start of an intense triple header, which could well bring more twists and turns to this 2025 season. It's all change at Alpine. McLaren remains somewhat dominant, and in front of the Tifosi, Lewis Hamilton will have his first competitive outing as Ferrari hope to find some pace. Plus, we have, of course, the first of Kimi Antonelli's home races. All of this and so much more to bring you. Welcome along to weekend warm-up at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Hello and welcome down to Imola. Joining me, Lawrence Barretto, Ruth Buscombe and Davide Valsecchi. And we are in Imola. The sun is shining. We've touched down in Europe, Lawrence.
Oh, it's so good to start the European season here at such a beautiful, picturesque track. I think it's always delivers a great qualifying session. I think the drivers love the high-speed nature of the track, and I think people just love to see the motorhomes back up in that family feel that we've got in the paddock.
And Haas have a brand new shiny one. I'm yet to actually go and see it. I'm going to head down there a little bit later on to take a closer look. Ruth, strategy-wise, this weekend's looking pretty interesting, actually, isn't it?
Very interesting. We have the new C6. I'm very excited. I appreciate it's quite a geeky thing to do, which could change the game. Historically, it's been a one-stop race, but now one step softer. Is it going to be possible? Do you know, it's very split paddock as to whether it will be a 1 or a 2 right now. We'll see if that's the same situation at the end of tomorrow's running.
Great stuff. And Davide Valsecchi, welcome back to F1 TV. Great to see you after our outing in Bahrain and now here on your home turf as well.
Yeah, one of the best places in the world. So very nice dress. Congratulations. And no, lovely day. Lovely track, lovely circuit. I'm looking forward to see also the battle in McLaren House. I mean, seems that Piastri is taking the advantage in the last few races, but we need to remember that Norris last year almost won this race by 7 tenths. He lost the victory to Max Verstappen. I mean, it's going to be very interesting, and the battle up there is going to be on fire.
And I mean, the big news coming into this weekend, though, of course, is Alpine and everything that is happening within that team. Franco Colapinto makes a return to the F1 grid. Jack Doohan is demoted back to reserve driver. Ollie Oakes has also resigned. Lawrence, that pretty much covers it, but what's going on behind the scenes?
Very succinctly, Laura, yeah, I think there were some rumblings over the course of the Miami weekend that the team were looking to evolve their driver lineup, that maybe that was Jack's last performance in the car. Then Flavio told him pretty much after he got out of the car after that first lap incident he had in Miami that he was going to have to sit it out. He was benched for the next 5 races. They want to see if Franco Colapinto, who they signed from Williams, let's not forget, as a reserve driver on a multi-year deal, they want to see if he's got what it takes. And now he's got this race at Imola, the rest of the triple header, Canada and Austria, to prove to Flavio and the rest of the team that he deserves to keep that seat for the rest of the year.
5 races is not much, is it? And it's interesting to see that wording being used after Jack's 6 races. But 5 races now for Franco Colapinto. Lawrence Barretto sat down with him a bit earlier on. You'll see the full thing before the pre-race show on Sunday. Here's a teaser.
Good to see you back, Franco.
Yeah, thank you.
You've got 5 races to show what you can do. What would constitute a good job?
I'm very confident. I'm not too worried at all about the 5-race stuff. I'm much more comfortable now here in terms of the knowledge I have, the experience, and if you go through emotions and you follow the team instructions and all these kind of things, I know they are gonna hold my back and they are gonna be very supportive. As a team, we just want to get back consistently to Q3, to get inside of the point, so we are just gonna keep working towards that.
Well, he made his debut for Williams in Monza. He now makes his debut for Alpine in Imola. And the Argentinians have come out in 4th. There must have been some quick tickets they booked up to get out here. But look at the support already for him, and you're seeing it online as well. But just 5 races, Lawrence, what does that mean? What is that wording from Alpine about?
I think they essentially want to evaluate their drivers. They probably didn't want to commit to the rest of the season for Franco and really dampen Jack's hopes of never getting back in the car. I think the reality is, if he does a good enough job over these next 5 races, and there's actually no reason to think he won't. He stepped in for Logan Sargent for only 9 races last year. He scored 2 points in 2 of the first 4 races of that run. I think if he does a good enough job there, there's no reason to change him. He's coming to 3 circuits he knows really well from F2. We just saw the Argentinian fans there, that massive fan base. He's about as big as Messi back home in Argentina. So he's going to bring that kind of support wherever he goes. And that's engagement the team will love. and he's got huge financial backing as well. So kind of, he's the all-round package if he delivers out on track. And I think from Alpine's perspective, they can kind of put him under a tiny bit of pressure. Look, go and deliver over these 5 races, do that, and he could be in for the rest of the season.
He came out the block so quickly for Williams. We'll see if he can do it again for Alpine. But Davide, what pressure on him, and how do you think it differs to that we saw last year for Williams, where he stepped in for a number of races and just had to get stuck in there and do a job? Now that there seems to be more pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy for him. He's a great guy. He's a very quick driver. He deserves to be in Formula One. But how sad on the driver's side, this strategy that they are using some team in Formula One now. 5 races to one driver, 6 races to other, 2 races for Lawson at the beginning of the season. How sad is that the driver has so little time to show his performance and to evaluate his talent. I mean, from my point of view, it's not paying off so well. I mean, with Duan, only 6 races, he didn't score any point, and Gasly had a lot. And now, again with him, come on, give the time to the driver to show his quality. Try to have the same approach that Mercedes is having with Kimi Antonelli, waiting for him, give him the time to try to build a relationship, a set-up strategy with his team, forcing the driver to perform and to deliver the result. Sometimes the pressure is so high that they have the speed at the beginning, but then they cannot deliver the result at the end, and maybe crashes and maybe mistakes. So I don't know. I don't think it's the right way to approach in Formula One. Like, a team has to choose the driver and believe in him, at least for one season. That is my point of view, is a personal one.
Well, no, many would argue that Jack Doohan had a target on his back before the season had even begun, with the number of reserve drivers that Alpine had in the wings. Ruth, Ollie Oakes has also resigned as well, citing personal issues. He's gone. Flavio Briatore then acting team principal in that case. How do you see the future of that team, with Flav at the helm, but actively looking for a replacement?
Yeah, when I was at Scuderia Ferrari, about 30 minutes from here, I had a year in 2014 where I had 3 team principals, but just the 2 drivers. You know, I think the reality of Formula One is all of us are on a 5-race contract. Whether it's a team principal, whether it's a driver, you know, the marginal gains are so there. The level of competition is so high. You know, the engineering teams change. You'll move out a race engineer. You'll move out a driver. And I think it just shows the level of competition. Everyone in Alpine is going to have to perform, you know, from the kind of the bottom level all the way up to the kind of the highest level. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. And I think that mark has been set down by Williams. If you look at the midfield team, you can see Williams standing P5 in the championship. Alpine, remember, they got 35 points and 3 championship positions because of the stunning execution of one race in the Brazilian Grand Prix when they double podiumed. They can't afford to wait. The differences, I think, between these teams, and I think that's what you're seeing, is you're seeing this push for the absolute excellence. You know, Jack is still there. He's going to be contributing to the job. He's still got a paycheck. He's still got a job. I'm excited to see what Franco can do. He won his first race in F2 here, the sprint race in Imola. Excited to see what he's going to do.
And Laura, just to jump in on the subject of the team principal, I think it's important to note that Flavio is the executive advisor. He's employed directly by Luca Di Meo. He's not an employee of the team. So the reality is they need a team principal. They're going to have to go out and find one, whether that's promoting from within. You know, they've got Dave Greenwood, his racing director there, whether that's bringing the kind of Alan Permain character who used to be at the team, knows it really well. They need someone to do the day-to-day running. So at the minute, they're kind of running without a team boss. Flavio would cover those duties in the interim. So I think they will want to cure that problem as soon as possible.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll take a look back then at what happened last time out. We were in Miami and it was a stunning weekend.
Formula One returns to Miami. Our front row, Norris versus Verstappen. The Miami Grand Prix is underway. Max Verstappen holding the lead, but he locks up. The 2 rivals are side by side. Verstappen got his elbows out. It's late on the brakes for Max Verstappen. Piastri powers by and takes the lead. Now we'll get take 2 with Norris.
Make it work for it.
Max complaining about his brake, forced him to f***
This is surely the moment for Lando Norris.
Oh, take a breath.
Is that a technical problem for Oliver Behrman?
They lost everything. That was underdog.
The Mercedes versus the Williams. Williams having an incredible day out there. This is super tight. Hamilton's gonna get both of them. No, just through on Carlos' side.
In China, I got out of the way.
We swapped the cars in 70.
Have a tea break while you're at it.
Oh. Oscar Piastri wins the Miami Grand Prix. What an amazing spectacle in Miami.
What a performance that was. He went into that weekend leading the World Championship. He extended his lead. He's the first Australian to do so since his manager. He's on a roll, 16 points ahead of Norris now. How are you seeing these intra-team dynamics playing out, Davide? Because they were interesting in Bahrain, and now Piastri's just taken a bit of a hold of the season.
Yeah, the way how he's racing is surprising me. To be honest, he looks like a young Verstappen. I mean, he's the only one while he's battling with Verstappen head-to-head, he's winning the battle. And so it surprised me how mature is he and how cold in the important moment is Piastri at the moment. I think Norris has to beat him on speed. And in Miami, he did it on quali, but then he had the battle at the first corner and lost immediately the advantage. Probably here can be a good track for him because last year he was very good Norris, but I think the head, Piastri is unbeatable. Probably on speed can be some room for fighting for Norris. He has to beat him on lap time, and that can be the key for Norris. If no, Piastri is pulling away.
Yeah, he's very much in the ascendancy as things stand, but Lando Norris not far behind him at all. You feel this a weekend in which he just has to maybe deal a blow back. We're going to come on to McLaren tyre temperatures, and we're going to get a little bit technical here because there have been many theories going around from the end of last season until now about how McLaren are cooling their tyres. Ruth, Davide, firstly coming to both of you guys on why it's important to cool those rear tyres.
I mean, the difference was huge. In Miami, we could see that they won the race by 36 seconds to Russell. Okay, they were a bit lucky because they did a pit stop under virtual safety car. They gained some second there, but the advantage in the race on the race pace was impressive. After a few laps, the other has the degradation, and McLaren maintained the pace. I don't know on the technical side, but for sure I can tell you that on the race give you so much confidence to be able to wait and to try to attack at the right moment. At the beginning, Verstappen can fight. After 10 laps, no way.
And Ruth, technically wise, the rear tyres are so important to keep cool, aren't they?
So important. And it's not just Oscar Piastri keeping cool. There is a hubbub amongst the engineers that the McLaren engineers are also keeping their tyres cooler than their competitors. Now, the regulations state that you're not allowed to use water. We saw Zach Brown with his tyre water that is not allowed. So that's Article 11.5, no water in your tyres. So that one's out. And actually, Oscar Piastri's car was checked after the race win in Miami, so it isn't water. Right, next. Article 10.8.4, this is exciting, isn't it? States the things you're allowed to do to your tyres to keep them cool is basically nothing. You can't keep them cool, you can't warm them up other than the blankets. So what do we have left? We can't have water, we can't have fancy heating or cooling things. Well, the working theory amongst, should we say geeks in a loving sense, is that McLaren have developed a system using a solid state. What does that mean? It means that there's something in that brake drum that changes state when it gets hot or cold to keep it cold. Broadly speaking, you know, when you have a drink, you put ice cubes in it, your drink stays cool, but the ice moves from a solid to a liquid. It's the same thing in your laptop. When your laptop gets hot and it whirs around, there is a material in there that keeps your laptop cool by changing state. Now, that is legal if they found a way to do it, but Red Bull have spied using a thermal camera. They've found these little cold spots, and this is the working theory. Now, this is a tale as old as time. Back in 2013, it was the Lotus, it was the Renault. They were able to beat Scuderia Ferrari by being able to have better degradation. It is a giant killer. So if you've already got the fastest car, degradation, because it's an integral, because you get it for the whole race pace, you get an extra tenth of lap, but then that adds and adds and adds and adds. So everyone is trying to work out what McLaren are doing. Back in 2013, it was swapping tyres. So the team in Lotus worked out faster than anyone else. They could move the left hand to the right hand, and there was something called ply steer. It is now an engineering race. Maybe it's not as exciting as the race between Max and Lando that went down to 0.7, but I rest assured the tyre engineers are working tirelessly to work out exactly what engineering trickery or not McLaren are doing.
Yeah, I mean, fair to say that the FIA have very much ruled that whatever they are doing is legal, and the car was under thorough investigation. Oscar Piastri's after Miami, and they found no fault, no flaw with it. It is potentially just very, very clever engineering, and also the sum of all parts of the car as well, not just what's happening in the rear brake ducts. You look towards the suspension and indeed the airflow around the car more generally. So why the contention then, Lawrence? Why is there why are there theories running around? Why are certainly the likes of Red Bull looking into it?
You tend to always get this when one team is maybe pulling away and maybe one team is jealous of the fact that they maybe haven't come up with this clever trick. It's a massive compliment to McLaren, really, that they've come up with this technology. As you said, Laura, they've been proven that everything they're doing is legal, so fair play to them. And you often find that teams who are chasing, while maybe they're working on something very similar in the meantime, will probably push the FIA as much as they can to learn as much as they can about what is legal and what isn't legal, so maybe they can replicate it themselves. But I think generally speaking, yes, Rob Marshall used to work at Red Bull, now he's working at McLaren. I'm sure there are various tricks going around in terms of knowledge you can take. But at the minute, it's McLaren are doing a great job. Red Bull are chasing, you know, they're weaker on tyre management, they're weaker in the slow and medium speed corners than McLaren, and they're just chasing to find a solution.
They are. They're going to keep chasing as well. But I mean, don't forget Spain. We do see the flexi wing come in. We may just see a little bit of a reset through 2025 at that race. We'll have to wait and see, though. For now, though, we're going to take a look back to 2024, Davide, and the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix of last year. Max Verstappen's pole lap. You're here to talk us through it.
Yeah, let's do it together, because the lap was fantastic. And look Verstappen, pole position by less than 1/10 to the McLaren duo. Piastri was second, and Norris was third. Tamburello, first chicane. So quick, but look at it, just on the right side, on the curb, on the right side, and then immediately on the throttle, 7th gear to approach Variante Villeneuve, away from the curb, just using the exit one, and then a bit wide on the line in Tosa, and look the gear, 3rd gear, completely using the extra surface on the curb, the exit, and then completely flat. And this is Piratella, one of the most difficult ones, 6th gear, downhill, and down to Acqua Minerale. That was amazing, because look how quick it goes to the throttle. Just at the exit of this corner was just amazing. And then unbelievable, the Variante Alta, the next chicane, because look how aggressive he is on the right curb. Bam! And then immediately open the throttle to try to find the speed and to try to beat McLaren, that at that time was starting to recover in the championship, and then down in the downhill. Rivazza, last 2 corners, both in 4th gear, using the exit curb, and then immediately on throttle, and then look the oversteer, bam! He controlled it immediately. He set a fantastic pole lap, and he won that race by 7/10. I mean, the race was atomic last year. Norris was all over behind him, but he could win that race. Mega quali.
Davide, thank you very much. That was excellent stuff. What a track as well. Old school, punishing, unforgiving, very little runoff. It will punish mistakes both in qualifying and indeed in the race itself. Limited overtaking too, so qualifying will be important. There are, of course, some track changes as well to bring you. The white lines have been extended at the apex of turn 3, 12 and 18, and at the exit of turn 7, 11, 12 and 19 by 1.5 meters. On to Ferrari then, and Davide, I'll come to you, because what is the general mood in Italy at the moment regarding Ferrari? They're very much a national team for you guys, and to see them struggle for any F1 fan is bad enough. For an Italian, it must be painful.
Yeah, to be honest, the tifosi, they cannot wait to see Ferrari fighting for victory. But at the moment, they keep arguing each other. Come on, there's no respect for Lewis Hamilton. Come on, Lewis Hamilton is not delivering, he's not strong enough at the moment. I mean, everyone is keep arguing. For sure, Miami was not a great race. For sure, also the race for them, strategy-wise, was not perfect. The arguing between the 2 drivers and the team Prix was not fantastic. I mean, we left Miami not in a great mood, and we try to have a fantastic result during this weekend, but believe me, the rivals, they are so strong. You have Verstappen that every time in quali is up there. You have the 2 McLaren that they fly away during the race. It's not so easy for Ferrari to try to find the room to be there fighting for podium. For sure, Leclerc is the man at the moment. He's quicker. If he's is more comfortable with the car and usually is delivering the result in quali. That here in Imola can be very, very important. The qualify can be the key to try to win or achieve the podium to the race.
One podium so far for Charles Leclerc in Grand Prix, but of course for Lewis Hamilton, a win and a podium in the sprint race as well. It's Lewis Hamilton's first outing in red in Italy. The reception to him could be astounding. Charles Leclerc also unwell today here on Thursday. He is expected though to be back here tomorrow, very much looking to get back into the car. Okay, we're going to throw now to a former Ferrari man and hear from Carlos Sainz.
Carlos, come to Imola off the back of a very strong Williams performance in Miami. You, however, were left slightly unhappy by the team orders situation. James Vowles said earlier this week it's the team's responsibility. How has that been cleared up? What's been the process that's gone on at Williams?
Yeah, I obviously was left frustrated after a frustrating weekend in general, where I think we were probably quick enough to finish in the top 5 with both cars, and I had a very strong quali, and I was having a strong race until I picked up damage in my car and I started going a bit backwards. But yeah, in the end, those radio communications is just quite clear. We just need to be more clear about it. There was definitely some misunderstandings across the radio channels, and it created a bit of controversy at the time, but once we reviewed it and saw exactly what happened, we realized we just need to improve on that side, and it will not happen again.
Firm, fair words there from Carlos Sainz. It will not happen again. And Lawrence, you spent some time at the Williams garage earlier this week, didn't you, as well, at the factory, with James Vowles. How did he reflect on the Miami weekend and what we were hearing on the radio between the two?
I think he just moved to kind of clarify that it's all sorted now. Kind of like Carlos said at the minute, they sorted out apparently in 2 minutes straight after the event. It was a case of miscommunication, but I think it was another example of how this is a Williams team that is suffering growing pains as they're moving back towards the front of the field, how they're getting used to using 2 world-class drivers at the same time who are going to be sharing a lot of the same racetrack. He understands that. They're going to be short, they're going to be concise in their radio messaging going forward. And I think in terms of the lessons that they learned, I think it was a great weekend for Williams because they're P5 in the Constructors' Championship and they're learning every single weekend. They're understanding what's going on. So yeah, it was in a really good mood actually when he was at the factory.
And a lot of the news surrounding Carlos Sainz is not necessarily around Carlos Sainz Jr. here, but Carlos Sainz Sr., who has noted to the press that he is interested in a bid to become FIA president. So we'll keep an eye on that, as I'm sure it will continue to rumble on through the latter half of this season. Davide, last time out, Williams were fighting Ferrari. Their pace is...
They ended up in front of them. They ended up in front of Leclerc, and Sainz had this huge try at the last corner against Hamilton. It didn't pay off, but anyway, they were flying. And believe me, it's a completely different circuit here because you don't have this high speed like in Miami, but can be positive for the future for them. Spa, Monza, Las Vegas, so many circuits with that characteristic. We can see what they are going to do. But anyway, Williams is improving so much. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, 3 different tracks to come as well, so we'll see how they fare throughout. James Vowles was keen to point that out to you, wasn't he, that yes, they went well in Miami. It could be track specific. Test, I guess, here, then again in Monaco, very different. Again in Spain, very different. He also had his opinions on other drivers as well, Lawrence, didn't he? Not just his own. Firstly, on Franco Colapinto, of course, the driver he knows so well from last season.
Well, James actually spent a lot of time in hotel rooms last year, first to try and get Carlos Sainz in there on the books for his race drive. I thought you'd enjoy that. And also then with Flavio Briatore to kind of try and do a deal to allow him to go and drive for Alpine for this season. Part of the reason why he did that was to try and give Franco the best opportunity to get a race seat, because obviously Carlos and Alex are tied up for the long term. And this is exactly what he hoped for. And he was talking about how he expects Franco to thrive. He knows how he can deliver even in a last-minute opportunity. I think that's what he's seen from him. And then the other driver he knows really well is Kimi Antonelli. He obviously spent a lot of time with him coming through the ranks, seeing him develop when he was at Mercedes. And one thing he really noted that I thought was interesting, he said that Kimi's got so much more to give in the fast corners. So he's clearly spending a lot of time looking at Kimi Antonelli's telemetry, and he can see that actually that's where his real strength is. And at the minute, he's kind of pared it back as he's kind of getting comfortable. And he said, look, if he's delivering at this level now, and he's left, you know, the 20% in those corners alone, what can Kimi Antonelli achieve? So I think it's pretty exciting to get that kind of viewpoint from a person who knew Kimi well and worked with him really for a long time at Mercedes.
Speaks to what might be to come for Kimi Antonelli, and we haven't maybe seen all 100% of him. Actually, the hotel staff at breakfast this morning asked me who I thought would win. I said potentially a McLaren, potentially a Max Verstappen. He said, I'll tell you who's going to win, Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli. You heard it here first from the hotel down here in Imola, but let's hear from Kimi himself on what it feels to be at a home race.
Well, for sure, it feels amazing. You know, it's. I think this one is my proper home race because, of course, we have Monza as well. But you know, I live probably 30 minutes away from the track, so I would say this is my proper home race, and I'm really excited. I mean, I really like the track as well. I think it's a really challenging track, old school, but you know, it's really good fun to drive around here. And yeah, of course, I feel you know the weekend is gonna be a special one, especially racing in front of all the Italian fans, my family, friends. So it's gonna be intense as well. You know, the energy is gonna be amazing, and that can be also used to do even better on track. But yeah, really looking forward to see how we go on this weekend.
And you can see here, Kimi Antonelli's school class have come into the paddock. They can't spend any time with him at school because he's traveling the world racing Formula One cars. So they have to come to the paddock to see their mate. And Valtteri Bottas, you just saw her there as well. He's been such a source of support for Kimi Antonelli so far. Mercedes and Kimi Antonelli, you mentioned earlier the way they're putting an arm around him in terms of him being a rookie, Davide, but what pressure on him this weekend? How do you think he'll cope with that? How do you think he'll react?
We need to remember that last year tested the Formula One Mercedes on this track, private test, but he had at least some experience on this track with Formula One, and we need to consider that he's improving. In performance, in qualifying for sure, he's getting the speed, and is better every race, and then they can count also on Russell, that is delivering every single race this season, fourth in the championship at the moment, second as a team, Mercedes just behind McLaren. I mean, they are in uphill at the moment. It seems that everything is working well, and I hope for Antonelli, be on podium is going to be a dream for us, but we need to remember Mercedes last year, not so positive here in Imola.
We'll see. The car seems to have a slightly greater operating window this season, but it is set to be relatively warm. Not quite as hot, though, as we saw in Miami. I think a fair few teams will be claiming a bit of a home advantage here because, of course, Haas also have part of their factory here in Maranello. I'm just making sure the crew and the team aren't getting mown down here in the paddock. Esteban Ocon was talking about that in the press conference. He was also asked about the C6 tyre. This is going to excite you, Ruth.
Yeah, it will be the second time for me running that tire. We have run it for the first time in Abu Dhabi testing, which is a very different track. I think this is going to open much more unknown and uncertainty to this track that we know quite well, which should be interesting. You know, I'm looking forward to be driving that, see you know how the degradation evolves, and see if it opens up strategy opportunities.
The C6 tyre then, Ruth, you were talking about that at the start of the show, weren't you? It's been brought out by Pirelli for this race. Obviously, as you heard from Esteban Ocon there, he was using it in the post-season Abu Dhabi test. It's soft, it's grippy, it's going to be a qualifying tyre, right? But in bringing that one, they're obviously bringing a step softer compound than we've seen previously here in Imola, forcing teams to perhaps roll the dice on a two-stop.
Oh, it's so exciting, isn't it? So two things. One, we don't have that C3 anymore. So Sunday's race can either be a one-stopper using the medium hard, which is now the C5, C4, or a two-stopper. And speaking with the teams, they're still not even sure if it's a two-stopper, if they're using two hards or two mediums. Expect to see a lot of running on that medium tyre tomorrow to work out just exactly what the degradation is going to be. But that's not all the excitement, Laura, because the C6, if you talk to people in the paddock, people aren't even sure if it's going to be able to be significantly faster across a lap. So on paper, it should be about 0.2 faster than a C5. Or potentially, we might even see a medium in qualifying. It's so exciting. It's all to play for. And it's a very short track as well. So traffic, track limits, rookies. Oh, can't wait.
But great planning from Pirelli as well to introduce it here ahead of course, Montreal and Monaco as well. It's deemed as a sort of street circuit tyre. You're seeing it here in Imola this weekend. So for the tyre enthusiasts enthusiasts like Ruth, like all of us and you out there, it's going to be a fascinating weekend. I'm going to come now, though, on to Aston Martin. You spoke to Fernando Alonso earlier, Lawrence. An upgrade here? What did he have to say about it?
Yeah, they've both Fernando and Lance have been itching for an upgrade all year. This is the first one they've got of any note in terms of an update or a development. It's developed in the old wind tunnel, but refined in the new wind tunnel. So we're starting to eventually see all this money that Lawrence Stroll has poured into the team coming onto the racetrack and developing. Obviously, Fernando wanted to play it down. He didn't want to get too excited, but it's a new floor and it's the top bodywork. So you'll see the car looking visually different. Lance will get it tomorrow. Fernando will run a back-to-back test with the Miami specs, so they'll learn about it, and they've got enough parts that if they want to keep it for the weekend, but boy, do they need it. You know, they're way down in the Constructors' Championship to where they expect to be. They've not scored for the last 4 Grand Prix, not including the sprint where Lance scored, and they need to do something. They can't throw all their eggs in the 2026 basket because this is Aston Martin. This is a team that puts so much money into it, and Lawrence Stroll, frankly, won't accept a disappointing finish in the Constructors. So while Adrian Newey is focusing on 26, and he said that there's plenty of innovations in the regulations to really kind of get spicy and maybe find a cool loophole to really exploit. He's not really focusing on the 2025 car beyond some lunchtime conversations. And I think that's interesting that he's still having a say, but his main focus is on 26. And there is still a small team, dedicated team working on 25 to try and salvage this season. I can't believe I'm saying salvage, race 7 of 24 race calendar, but that's where they're at the minute. And that's because it's so competitive in the midfield.
And I also saw in the Aston Martin interview that Adrian Newey has done, and then they've released this week, that he says he will be in Monaco. So that's the first time we'll see Adrian Newey at a track. But the input that he's having into that 2025 car, as you say, limited to lunchtime sessions. I don't know if Aston Martin are partial to a long or a short lunch, though. They could well be long sessions. But look, that battle down between P7 to P10 is incredibly tight, and we say it time and time again. Every single point and place matters here in Formula One. All right, then, this is the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. This is Imola, and here is the schedule for you for this weekend, our first in Europe. FP1, we're building up to all the action at 1:15 before FP2 at 4:45. FP3 then, slightly earlier time of 12:15 for your on-air build-up. And then pre-qualifying at 3:30 p.m. for the pre-show. Qualifying hour begins at 4 p.m. Very important here, don't forget, hard to overtake. And the post-qualifying show immediately afterwards. Your pre-race show will come on Sunday at 2 p.m. and then the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix starting at 3 p.m. with the post-race show immediately afterwards. All right, well, you've heard who the hotel staff believe will win this weekend, and that is Kimi Antonelli. I'd imagine an Italian may well say that this weekend. I asked him how he thought Ferrari would do, and he said they cannot win this season with this car. Very firm about it, but I'd love to hear your predictions, please. Davide, go on.
For Lando Norris. I want to see battle on the top, and so Lando Norris is struggling a bit. Go, I cheer for Norris. Let's see.
Wow, okay, you want to see some battles, we may as well see them. Ruth?
You know, I'd love to agree with the hotel staff. I'd just love to have a Kimi
story,
Antonelli
right?
win. No comment on the Ferrari side of things, but do you know what? I want to see Oscar go for this charge. You know, 3 races in a row. I want to see him really step up, make this a championship battle, you know, stamp his authority, but don't ever discount Max Verstappen on a track like this. It's technical. So I think it might be our 3 protagonists again, but Kimi for pole.
Lawrence?
I think it's going to be close between the 2 McLaren drivers. I think they've just essentially got the edge here, but I'm interested to see how much Red Bull will push back. They've got an upgrade here this weekend. They're putting a lot behind that and hoping that it makes that step change to give Max Verstappen a bit more confidence in the car. I think Oscar's got the momentum, so I think it's going to be difficult to beat him. But Lando, like Davide says, is so strong around here, so we could actually get a really good fight here. So I know I'm sitting on the fence a little bit here, but I think it's going to be a fight between Oscar and Lando for the win. And I think Max is going to be in amongst it, and I think that's what could be quite exciting.
I'm about to join you on the fence.
Yes.
I agree. I think we're going to see a McLaren win, but I'm not quite sure who. And then a Max Verstappen on the podium as well. But don't forget, he's won the last 3 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, not counting, of course, the 2023 race, which had to be cancelled due to the flooding. The area here still very much recovering from those floods. But it's wonderful to be back here in this, the final year of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix contract. Well, from us here, then, we'll head into practice tomorrow. Thanks very much to Lawrence, to Ruth, and to Davide, to all of you for watching. watching as well, and we'll see you tomorrow for FP1 and FP2 here in Imola.
When it comes to stirring emotion, Imola stands alone. The Grand Prix is underway, side by side.
This is so close.
I'm fishing as much as I can.